मैं देखता था कुछ बच्चों को वो बच्चे जो हैं बहुत ही अच्छे से इंग्लिश में बात करते थे एंड व्हेन आई वुड लुक एट देम आई वुड फील वेरी इन्फीरियर. ही इज़ नॉट गोइंग टू डू एनीथिंग इन लाइफ. ये नालायक है, इसने कुछ नहीं करना, इसने धक्के खाने हैं. द ओनली थिंग दैट आई हैड मास्टर्ड वाज हाउ टू कट अनियंस एट अ सुपर फास्ट पेस. आई एम डूइंग दिस बिकॉज this is what I think I deserve. That was the day I decided that I am not going to do this job anymore. The progress was slow and gradual, but hi, I'm Kamalneet Singh. I'm a public speaker and a mindset coach. Today, I'm going to share with you that how a shy and underconfident child turned around his life and made his biggest weakness into his biggest strength. Now, सभी बच्चों के लिए ना जो स्कूल लाइफ होती है वो जनरली बहुत चेरिश्ड होती है. जो स्कूल फेज होता है इट्स अ वेरी चेरिश्ड फेज ऑफ लाइफ. बट फॉर मी इट वाज नॉट द केस. As a child, I was very shy, underconfident, and I had developed inferiority complex over a period of time. So the school that I went to, वहाँ पे हिंदी and पंजाबी का culture ज़्यादा था, and English was not the first language as such. But मैं देखता था कुछ बच्चों को वो बच्चे जो हैं बहुत ही अच्छे से इंग्लिश में बात करते थे, and when I would look at them, I would feel very inferior. That कि ये इतने अच्छे से बोल सकते हैं ना, हमारे घर पे कल्चर नहीं है, and I am unable to speak. So every time my teacher would ask me things, I would not be able to respond back in English. Now that made me feel, I would feel shrink inside. And वो होता ना, हर क्लास में एक बच्चा होता है जो शाय होता है, वो एक कोने पे बैठता है, ज़्यादा बोलता नहीं है. आंसर्स आते थे, आंसर्स यहाँ थे, लेकिन आंसर्स आर्टिकुलेट नहीं हो पाते थे. And when that would happen, I would feel very irritated inside that what is happening? Why am I unable to say anything? And कभी कभी कोशिश करनी, when I would say something, there would kids around me who would laugh, who would say things that were not appropriate, and that made me feel very, very inferior. So the inferiority inside was growing at a rapid pace, but I was unable to do anything about it. So there was a time when, when verbally I would not be able to do too much, I would get physical at times. And childhood was a tough scenario. I felt aloof. I was not a part of the class as such. I would sit at one side, the cornered kid who was cornered. The constant conversation that I would have with myself in my head was that, I'm not good for anything. That's what I would hear from people around me, that he is not going to do anything in life. ये नालायक है, इसने कुछ नहीं करना, इसने धक्के खाने हैं. And those words, those conversations would ring in my head day in and day out that I am not going to do anything in my life and I'm a waste. I would feel worthless. Now, with that conversation going on in my head, I started believing it. I started believing that, I'm going to be like just any other person who would not do well in life. Now, when I was in class 12th, with all this ringing in my head, I thought, what do I do next? Because my school life is about to get over. I went up to one of my teachers and I asked her that, what do I do, madam? What do you suggest that with the challenges that I have, what do you think I should do? And she said that, Kamalneet, I recommend that you stay at the back and do not take up something wherein you have to be out and interact with people. And I thought, yes, I think she's right, because that's what everybody is telling me, that I can't do anything, I can't talk to people, I'm shy, I'm underconfident, I can't be up in the front, so I have to be at the back. So I asked her that, madam, what do you suggest that I should do? She said that, why don't you take up hotel management? Now, when she said hotel management, in my head, I was absolutely confused. That hotel management is all about going out and meeting people, greeting them, solving their issues. How would hotel management help me stay at the back? And she said, when you do hotel management, you do have one option. You can become a cook and stay at the back. You can make a career out of it, and you can also hide your challenges. Now, when she said that, become a cook, to be very honest, I did not feel like, that I'm not too sure. But then, some memories I had as a family when my father would take the family on Sundays around, and I would look at the 5-star hotels and, I would feel like going to them. And I would ask the family that, can we? And they would say, no, we cannot. And I knew the reason that we could not afford to go to 5-star hotels. But when she said that, take up hotel management, I thought, if not this way, maybe this way. But it was not that I wanted to become a cook. Unsure of myself, not very clear in my head, I landed up at IHM Bangalore to do hotel management as a degree, finished that and got my first job in a hotel as a cook. Now, it was a job that not that I really loved doing it, but I had to because I had no other choice. Now, when I got this job, I'm working in a kitchen, and one fine day, my head chef tells me that, you know what, Kamalneet, here is a sack, and it has some stuff in it. You just cut it, and that's about it. Now, I opened the sack. In hotels, you measure everything. Now, when I opened the sack, I found onions in the sack, 40 kgs of onions. Now, I was shocked that, you know, what is this? Now, am I supposed to cut 40 kgs of onions? And of course, I was supposed to do. Now, I started cutting onions. Now, I'm cutting onions and I'm talking to myself. The conversation is happening that, you know, what am I doing with my life? What am I really doing here? I've come all the way from Delhi to Bangalore and did my 3 years of degree. And I've become somebody who I never wanted to. I'm doing this because I never believed in myself. I am doing this because I thought that I'm good for nothing. I'm doing this because I thought that this is something that I will only be able to do. I'm doing this because I considered myself as a failure. I'm doing this because this is what I think I deserve. The conversation in my head started growing very loud, and my inner voice is telling me that, Kamalneet, were you born to cut onions? And the answer was a clear no. I was not born to cut onions. But then what do I do? Now, in fact, even in the hotel, I would get bullied a bit. People would say that, you know what, we have our onion cutter here. And I would feel, you know, what is this? Am I being called an onion cutter? Because the only thing that I had mastered was how to cut onions at a super fast pace. But then who wants to be known as an onion cutter? Now, one fine day, my head chef tells me, Kamalneet, you know, there is a sack. We have your favorite work. Why don't you finish it? And in my chef's terminology, my favorite work was cutting onions. And I said, fine, chef. And then he said, you know what, Kamalneet, today there is something special. And I turned around, I looked at him, I said, you know, what is it, chef? He said, you know, today we have a scheme going on. So I was a bit puzzled as to what is this all about. He said, Kamalneet, today you have buy one, get one. And for a couple of seconds, I did not understand that what is this buy one, get one. Now, when the sinking happened, I realized that he's telling me to cut not one sack, but 2 sacks, which means 80 kgs of onions. Now, I got irritated inside when I understood that what am I doing? But I had no choice. I could not fight with him. I started cutting onions, and I absolutely remember that, you know, I had tears rolling out of my eyes. Well, people thought that these tears were of sulfur. These tears were not of sulfur. They were tears of broken self-esteem. And I realized that, you know, this is enough. That was the day I decided that, you know, I am not going to do this job anymore. And I walked up to my chef and I said, you know what, chef, I'm not doing this, I'm quitting. And he said, what happened? I said, chef, I'm done with cutting onions. I think I'll have to do something. And he said, you know, you will not get, if you leave like this, you will not get an experience letter. And I told him, you know what, chef, I even don't want the experience letter for cutting onions. I don't want that experience letter. You can keep it to yourself. That evening, I realized that I have left my job. I don't have money. And what do I do? So I thought, you know, I'll probably have to figure out something. But by then, I had a very clear understanding that I landed up in that job because of the fact that I did not believe in myself. I packed up, came back to Delhi, and my parents thought that, you know, I have come back on a holiday. But little did they know that I came back forever. And my father asked me that what is it that you would want to do now because you've left all this. And I said, you know what, Dad, जो मेरे साथ हुआ ना स्कूलों में वो I don't know कितने हज़ारों बच्चों के साथ हो रहा, I don't want them to go through what I went through. And he said, what do you want to do then? I said, I would want to go back to the schools and, you know, do something about it. But since my own self-confidence and my self-esteem was broken, so I knew that, you know, fear had overpowered me. And it was this time I realized that, you know, I am not going to let fear rule my life for my life. And I decided that, you know, I have to work on myself. I started working on myself. I started reading. I started understanding human psychology. I started understanding that, you know, why do I feel the way I feel? I started going to seminars. I started picking up random conversations with people because I knew that this is my time. I have to break my fears. I would stand in front of the mirror and I would talk to myself. I would tell myself standing in the mirror that, you know what, you are a good speaker, you are confident, you can do it. Sometimes when my relatives got to know that this is what he does at times, they would laugh that what is this all about? But I knew that, if things have to change, I have to work on myself. I started investing in myself. I realized that, for things to change, I got to change. Nothing else is going to change otherwise. I would read books, read and read and read, and I probably went on for hours together to read and understand that, that how can I do things. I would read one thing, I would go out and implement. I would read one thing, I would go out and implement the same. And I realized that, things were improving. And I thought, time had come for me to, meet my biggest fear, public speaking, and, walk through it. I started going out, started working in schools, started saying that, I would want to speak to the kids. And I was faced with rejections because principals would ask me that, what is your qualification? Now, my qualification was hotel management graduate, and they would ask me, what is your experience? And my experience was cutting onions. So they would not really allow me to do it. One principal agreed that, I'm going to give you a section of 37 kids. If you work with them and if they like what you do, I'm also going to deploy my teachers in your session. If they like what you do, probably I'm going to give you more kids. So the journey started with the 37 kids. I worked on myself. I remember I would go for meetings and I would try and put what is it that I have in my mind, and I would tell this at the reception, and she would say, okay, you can go and meet the principal. Now, when the principal would call me inside, I thought that I'll be able to do it, but then I would be at loss of words. And I would feel very embarrassed that I'm sitting in front of a principal. I don't have things to express. What do I tell her? And she would tell me that, so what brings you here? What is it all about? And I would fumble and I would probably lose the entire thing. And she would say that, thank you, we'll get back to you. Now, I knew that getting back to you means what? So I had my share of days as well. I had my, my pie of struggles. I remember probably there would be sessions, I'm taking a session, and in between, I would fumble. I would miss what is it that I would want to say. And sitting in front of teachers, and you feel very embarrassed that, what is happening. But every time I failed at that, I told myself, I think the next one has to be better than the previous one. The next one has to be much, much, much better. So the progress was slow and gradual, but eventually, yes. Today, I train teachers all across. I have trained, we work with more than 50,000 kids. I've trained more than 11,000 teachers. I address more than 1,000 parents. And it wasn't easy. And let me confess, it wasn't easy, but the effort that had gone into it was worth the effort that it took. So from holding a knife in my hand to holding a mic in my hand, it wasn't easy. From cutting thousands of onions to addressing thousands of people, it wasn't easy. From that shy boy who was shrinking inside to a person who goes out and addresses teachers, parents, and kids, it wasn't easy. What changed? The mindset changed. And I realized that the job of the fear is to come. The job of the fear is to come, but it's my job to handle it. It's my job to fail. Fear, fail, but get up, bounce back, and do it once again. And I realized the biggest lesson for me was that, now this piece between your ears, it can either cut you into pieces or you can create a masterpiece of your life, provided you manage this piece between your ears. That was my biggest takeaway. And a lot of times we try and perform and we fail. That's okay. Bounce back, learn more about yourself, go inward, get up again and go towards it, and you will shine through.
Tell us what you think about this video, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.